All right, so it's time to get started. So in this this webinar, I will cover furniture and home product safety standards uh, in the EU and the US. And what I will cover in this webinar can be applied to importers, manufacturers, Amazon sellers. So these are the main three groups that I believe this will be relevant for. Quick introduction, that's me on the right. A few years ago, used to be based in Shanghai in mainland China, and now we're based in Hong Kong since about 2 years. We're actually set up in January 2019 here in Hong Kong. And I'm originally from Sweden, background in product development and manufacturing, which also includes furniture and home products. I'm not specialized in that field though. So that's one slide too many. Anyway, I'm the director of Compliance Gate. Sorry, I'm the director of Asia and Portugal Hong Kong Limited, which in turn operates ComplianceGate.com. ComplianceGate.com is a website. We provide information about product compliance requirements. That's say chemical regulations, labeling, flammability, and so on for consumer products in the EU and the United States. And we're based in Kennedy Town. Right, so we're going to begin and we're going to start with the EU, with the European Union. So, number one, we have something called GPSD. That's a General Product Safety Directive that is broadly stating that all products sold in the EU have to be safe. And this is the case regardless of whether there are pre-existing safety standards that apply for a certain product. Okay, in some cases the GPSD is referencing certain EN standards, that's European standards that are harmonized across the EU member states, but in some cases you have to go beyond that. Now I understand this may sound abstract, but if we take one example with IKEA, I think the IKEA bookshelves that had a balancing issue, and this tragically resulted in I think 3 child deaths in the United States in 2018 or 2019, maybe it's even further back, meaning that you need to consider safety at a design level, even if there's nothing saying that, okay, even if there's no technical standard saying that, okay, this shelf should not be, it should not tilt over, even if there's no specific standard that says that, gives you the specific numbers, you still need to take that into consideration. What IKEA ended up doing was to pull this from the market, and now I don't think they have implemented it yet, but I think there are discussions, at least in the EU, maybe also in the United States, to come up with balance standards for certain types of furniture. And that's really the essence about the GPSD. But sometimes you have something called pre-existing standards, could be mentioned, meaning referenced under the GPSD or not. And these are some examples. So, what you see here is, say, EN 12952-1. This is also known as cigarette test, covering bedding items. I think it can also apply to furnishing covers, like fabrics, for example. Ignitability and burning behavior. This is for curtains and drapes. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of every single EN standard that exists, but these are very often used as the reference point, and these in turn, if you're an importer, for example, you can then refer to these standards when you deal with your manufacturer, say in mainland China or in Vietnam. Or if you are a manufacturer, then you can refer to these standards when you buy fabrics from your material suppliers, for example. Okay, you wouldn't really refer to, oh, it needs to comply with GPSD, because that's very broad, it's not very specific. You would say, okay, you need to follow EN 13772, just to give you an idea. Okay, and that's the same thing when you verify compliance, when you want to do testing, you go to say a testing company like, well, Intertek or SGS, you would then also refer to a specific standard. Okay. Next we have REACH, and REACH is not specific to furniture. The regulation that covers substances in all materials in the EU. This could be, well, furniture covers, fabric covers. It could be certain home products. It can also be paints and coatings. Okay. What it does is that it sets certain limits on substances, lead, cadmium, DHP, that's a phthalate, by the way. Okay. Some cases these substances are banned, meaning the limit is 0. It should not contain any amount of a certain substance. In some cases it's set to a certain limit. Could be like 10 milligrams or something. That's just a guess. Okay, I don't keep track of these limits. The good thing with REACH is that you don't need to know exactly which substances are restricted, or currently restricted is a better way to phrase it, actually, because this is subject to updates, meaning that they can add new substances to the restriction, okay, and they can also adjust the limit. Could be going down from 10 to 5 milligrams, for example, and sometimes they can also implement limits specific to certain types of products, okay. But what I want to get to is point 4, that testing companies, once again, like the big ones, Intertek, Kima, SGS, etc., they keep track of which substances are restricted at the moment, and what are the limits, and which can be applied to a certain type of material, certain type of coating, and so on. But REACH testing is also something that can be applied to furniture and home products. Right, then we also have textiles labeling in the EU, defined as product containing a minimum of 80% by weight of textile fibers. Must be labeled with the correct fiber composition, like 100% cotton or polyester. You may also need care instructions, that's washing instructions. Generally needs to be permanent. And it's not just about clothing textiles, but furniture coverings, mattress coverings, camping tents. This is copy-paste straight from the EU website. So that's number 3 to take into consideration. Alright, then we have packaging. Now, all of you may not use packaging, furniture after all, but when it comes to export packaging materials, it can still be relevant, and it's very similar to REACH, but specific to heavy metals. Okay. All right. Then we also have something that's rather unique for the EU and coming up in July 2021. It's called an authorized representative. This is unique to cross-border e-commerce companies, meaning if you are selling furniture, home products, or any products for that matter, this is not unique to furniture and home products, by the way, directly to EU consumers, not to a business, not a factory in Dongguan selling to a furniture wholesaler in Frankfurt. That's then it's B2B. That's a different thing. Now, if you sell directly from outside the EU, B2C to consumers, then you need to have an authorized representative as of July. Okay, at least for most product categories. What this means is that you need to have an address, but it's not as simple as just using a virtual address. You need to have an address from a authorized representative. What this means in turn is that you can't just, it's not a matter of just turning up and paying for it. You do have to pay, but in order, let's say that the authorized representative, they are appointed, and I don't know the exact criteria, like on what basis are they allowed to act as authorized representatives, but either way, I know, for example, a product IP, which is a leading compliance company in the EU, and they also have an office in Hong Kong. They require that you can provide full compliance documentation for their review. Okay, so if you're selling, say, soft furniture, that will be flammability testing, reach testing, and so on. They also require that you obtain product liability insurance, and then they allow you to use their address, and they also manage communication with the EU authorities. That could be the customs, asking questions about compliance documents and so on. Now, the point here is that the enforcement mechanism is that packages without the AR label can be destroyed without consent from the seller or the customer. So, giving more power to the authorities to basically enforce compliance, and they use the authorized representative sort of as a gatekeeper. And I believe this is something we're going to see a lot more of. Now, importers are not affected because you're already importing, already responsible for what you place on the market. Alright, so let's go to part 2, that's United States. I just want to mention that I don't cover every single regulation or standard or label or, that could potentially apply to a furniture or home product. I just want that to be clear. The purpose of this webinar is to give you a, let's say, high-level overview, to understand the basics, to understand, to broadly get an idea of, okay, what does compliance mean in practical terms for importers, manufacturers, and later on also Amazon sellers. I know the furniture and home products are huge on Amazon. Furniture, less so. I actually know one company, a French-owned company based in Guangzhou, specialized in furniture, and I think they managed to get into one of those Amazon programs, meaning they become like a privileged seller or something. I think Amazon might even be buying products directly from them. So I am aware of some companies that have been seeing success selling furniture on Amazon, but that's for later. Now, United States. So the US is it's very different. There's federal regulations that applies in all states, and there's also state level regulations. But we're going to begin with federal level regulations that apply in all states. And first we have CPSAA, that's Consumer Product Safety Initiative Act, I think, implemented by CPSC, it's Consumer Product Safety Commission. And the CPSAA covers all products in the United States, 12-year-olds or younger. Okay, newborns to 12-year-olds, okay, including children's furniture. Now, what this means in practice is, number one, you need to follow certain safety standards. You find this information on the website. They have a number of specific standards, be it ASTM or CPSC standards that apply specifically to children's furniture, bunk beds, cots, and so on. Okay, so that's number one. And you need to buy these standards. They're very specific in terms of, say, weight requirements, in terms of, well, everything really. Okay. This is something that you need to consider at a design level. You need to take compliance into consideration at the very, very beginning, at the drawing board. That's how serious this is. So the first step is to confirm which standards may apply, okay? And then learn what does that mean in technical terms. Second, lab testing is mandatory in order to verify compliance with said standards, okay? But not just from any company. It has to be a CPSC accepted testing company, okay? If not, that test report is worthless. And as I said, the test report is mandatory. It's part of the mandatory documentation. You also need to issue it's a self-issued document. It's called a Children's Product Certificate. You can find free templates on the CPSC website. And it's basically a statement saying that, hey, this product, this bed 123 ABC, manufactured in this and that country, this production facility on this and this date, or it could be in a month, just to have some sort of batch tracking, is compliant with this and that standard, and the product was then tested by this company. You need a tracking label, and you may also need a small part warning. Not sure how common that is for furniture, to be honest. A tracking label, you got the batch ID, the seller information, well, the importer, and so on. And for a number, especially for children's furniture, you likely also need to have a product registration card. Again, this information is public. You can find a definitive list of products on the CPSC website. All right. Well, if you're not into children's furniture, if that's not your business, then this might interest you more. These regulations are under the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, and they require that certain wooden products, as you can see here, well, including certain garden and patio furniture. Okay, there's a more definitive list on the USDA website you should definitely check out, and also a number of different kitchenware like this bowl and so on need to be treated. Okay, and you need to obtain a pre-import approval. This is something that you do online on the website. You need to create an account, and the pre-import approval then also specifies the type of treatment. Could be heat treatment, could be chemical fumigation treatment. Okay. That's all on the USDA website. You can also see a more definitive product list. This is just a couple of examples. All right, then we have textiles labeling requirements. Similar to the EU, material, import manufacturer name, care instructions, English language, or plus other languages if you want to add. This is for certain types of furniture slipcovers, well, detachable furniture covers in my understanding. And you can also find a more specific list on the ftc.gov website, or you can just Google it. I think it's threading your way through textiles labeling requirements or something along those lines, and you will then find a more definitive guide. But that's something to take into consideration. All right, then we have similar to the EU with the EN standards that I mentioned. In the US, there's also a more, let's say, diverse set of standards. There's CPSC flammability standards covering upholstery furniture, carpets and rugs. Okay. Then there's also ASTM. Once again, we see the cigarette test here. And NFPA standards. Okay. So when these are applied, depends on the product. Depends on where you plan to sell the product. Okay. In many cases, it's voluntary. It's optional to ensure compliance with these standards. That said, though, you can still have a lot of issues if it turns out that your product does result in injury, death, or damaging property. It's always in your interest as a manufacturer in China, in Vietnam, or as an importer in the United States to follow flammability standards and also other standards, safety standards that may apply. Okay, even if it is voluntary, even if it is not mandatory. Not going to go into detail. Okay, about when and which to use. You need to ask a lab. You need to contact a testing company, give them a product specification, and then ask them to make this assessment. Okay. Now, as said, though, when it comes to children's furniture, it's a completely different thing. That is always mandatory. It also depends on the state. As you can see below, this technical bulletin 1117, which sets certain flammability requirements and also testing procedures for furniture covers, filling materials, and also deckings in California. And that's just one state regulation, just to give you an idea, because that's a dynamic at the federal level. And there's also state level regulations for furniture. All right, another one is country of origin labeling. Pretty straightforward. Your factory is in Shenzhen, well, it's made in China. If it's in Ho Chi Minh City, it's made in Vietnam. If in Texas, it's made in the US. can be a bit complicated though, sometimes anyway, um, when it comes to assessing where most value is added. In general, it's where the product is manufactured, but of course, say covering material can come from one place, filling material from another. Uh, and that assessment is something that a customs broker or a customs consultant should make on a case-to-case basis. I can't sit here and say, yeah, these are the 3 rules to follow. It's not really that straightforward. Once again, you find a lot of information, a lot of guidelines on the FTC website. But I can say that something that's not allowed is to manufacture a product in country B, ship it to manufacture a piece of furniture in country A, ship it over to the United States, repack it, relabel it, and call it a day and claim it's made in the United States. That's obviously not okay. We get a lot of questions about that. Actually, we used to. If you go back to 2018, 2019, there's a lot of importers and also manufacturers asking us about that, because that was when trade war was heating up and the tariffs kicked in and so on. Okay, now we move into state level regulations, and we're going to start with the US law label. The US law label is mandatory in, I can't remember how many states, 25 plus states. So you can say that it's de facto mandatory in the sense that it's required in so many US states. It's a label that details the filling materials in stuffed products, cushions, stuffed furniture, and so on. Okay. The specific information differs, but often includes a do not remove statement, filling materials, a uniform registry number, and my understanding is you have to register on a state level, and also company name. All right, then we have another state level regulation, also in California. And why I bring this one up is because it's quite similar to REACH for the EU that I mentioned, in the sense that it restricts chemicals, heavy metals, and other polluting substances in all consumer products in California. Not only as with CPSAA, which only goes for 12 children's products, including children's furniture, but all age groups, so lead, cadmium, phthalates, and so on, that could potentially be found in cover materials, more likely to be found in certain paints, print inks, or varnishes, coatings. Okay, even in certain types of leather, or of course PU leather. Something material where you could find certain types of plasticizers and so on. Okay, and in short, verifying compliance is basically comes down to lab testing to get a test report showing, okay, these are the substances, ND, non-detect, or show the concentration. All right, now this is not the only substance regulation in the United States. That would take me all day. And as I said, this webinar is not about showing you a exhaustive and 100% definitive list, but brief you and help you understand the dynamics. So that's my idea here. So there are also other substance regulations in other states in the US. Okay, then we also have Amazon compliance requirements. So how does Amazon enforce compliance? They tend to request test reports. They may also request other compliance documents. Again, you're selling children's furniture in the United States. They will also, in addition to the test report, also require the children's product certificate. Okay, and they will compare that to the test report. They may also require supplier invoices if you're an importer. An issue, well, a way that many sellers fail is they receive a request like this and they send a test report for a similar product. Okay, or they provide compliance documents that don't match a test report. That's another one. Or in case of importers, rely on the suppliers to help them out to create compliance documents. The truth is that Well, most manufacturers in this industry, any industry for that matter, are not compliance experts. Just like they don't help importers with their marketing or branding, they generally don't have the expertise to assist with these matters. So, how does Amazon operate? Now, they can reach out, meaning send an email or a message like this when you list a product or when you've been selling a product. So just being able to list a product and successfully selling that for some time is not a guarantee that they've already checked it or approved it or anything like that. In this case, this is actually Amazon Color UK. They reach out to this seller and request a can we see here Amazon has implemented safety standards for all jewelry products. Okay, this was jewelry. Okay, but that's not reach applies to everything, not just jewelry. And we do not have sufficient information regarding the affected ASIN. Okay, that's the SKU, to assess whether they meet the safety standards in compliance with the REACH regulation. Meaning, basically, what they're asking is, hey, does your jewelry products contain substances above the set limits? Does it contain excessive amounts of certain chemicals or heavy metals? We need to see evidence, which can also be translated to we need to see a test report. So what kind of documents do they request? That depends. Keep in mind that Amazon generally just follow national or state level regulations. Okay, you sell in the US, you need to comply with US regulations. You sell in the EU, you need to comply with European Union standards and regulations. That's straight. That's simple. Okay, so they may request a test report. That's number one. They may also request product certificates if that is required. They don't make up their own product certificate requirements. It just reflects what is otherwise required. Okay. Product label images. This could be for example, the law label. Maybe they want to see a photo of that. Okay. They're not going to open up and check it themselves. At least I never heard about them doing that. Maybe in the future, who knows? But they tend to request images showing that the product and sometimes also the packaging is correctly labeled. As said, could be the law label, that could be country of origin label, a textiles label, maybe all three. Okay, keep in mind one labeling requirement doesn't exclude others, and sometimes also supplier invoices. Okay, so yeah, that was everything for my presentation here today. And you can also reach out to check out our website on compliancegate.com in case you have any questions about today's webinar. Be it about furniture compliance, home products, feel free to reach out. Send me an email to info@compliancegate.com. Normally respond within 1 or 2 days. And that doesn't matter if you're an importer, Amazon seller, trading company, manufacturer. We work with a wide range of companies when it comes to these questions, helping our clients understand compliance requirements, and also what it takes to practically go through this process. Is of course a process to everything. It's one thing to just do the theory. My background is in, as said, in product development and manufacturing, so that's the perspective. And while I'm still here, just to give an example of the way things can go wrong, a few years ago, when I was still based in Shanghai, working with this beanbag, a European company, beanbag supplier, a beanbag brand in a European country, I'm not going to mention which one. They were importing these custom designed beanbags from a factory in Hangzhou. And I went to Hangzhou to collect samples for flammability testing, and it turned out that um, the products were non-compliant, meaning that they failed the testing. And I later on asked the factory manager, like, well, you knew the customer were European in this case. Why didn't you follow the standards? Well, yeah, sure, but they didn't tell us. They didn't specify that. So when we contacted our fabric supplier, um, we didn't know that we would tell them to produce a fabric and also a cover fabric that were to comply with this specific EN standard. That's how you know any minor mistake like that can result in disaster. Turned out they couldn't import those beanbags for that very reason. Okay, because they were also selling to hotels and so on, meaning that requirements were even stricter. So yeah, that gives you an idea, and this is not an issue just for importers. If you are a manufacturer here in Asia, you still need to deal with a wide range of material suppliers, right? And you need to know what to tell them, because otherwise you may end up with a batch of products you're not going to get paid for. Letter of credits you can cash in. Right, so as said, I hope you had some time to write down my email here. Feel free to send me a message. You can also check out our website here, compliancegate.com. You can find a lot of free guides, okay, like mattress regulations here, for example. Got plenty of free guides here, not just for furniture, of course, for a wide range of products, and not just for the EU and the US, but also Australia, New Zealand, Canada, also Hong Kong and Singapore. Okay, you also attend free webinars, and we have a tool that helps you find information about certain product regulations. All right, so that's everything from me. My name is Fredrik, and thank you so much for attending. Bye bye.